and welcome to a gaming conversation with friends. The last episode of the year, the Christmas special, the finale, and we had to end it with the main man who's never actually made it on the show. I'm embarrassed to say because he's a good friend of mine. Goat Force Gaming. How are you doing, mate? Thanks for coming on.
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here with all three of you. It's been a while since I've talked to some of you, including you, Stubbs. So I don't know why you decided to have me back, but I'm glad you decided to have me back. It's good to be back.
It was midweek gaming last time you came on, I think. I'm terrible at inviting people. That's the problem. I used to do the same with midweek gaming. People used to be like, don't you want me back on? I said, no, it's just I'm terrible at inviting people.
Joshua, we wouldn't be invited back on if we didn't just turn up.
Yeah, no, they're just left in channel permissions and they just turn up. They? I hope they turn up, but they usually let me know. But yeah, no, thanks for coming on. I appreciate that, I do. And VJ, thanks for coming on.
Hello, Mr. Stubbs. Hello, Goat Force. Nice to have you on the show. I hope you've got lots of interesting things to say because we're normally quite a boring bunch.
Well, I have things to say. It'll be up to you to decide if they're interesting.
Yeah.
Got to be more interesting than us having to do with Stubbs' settings every week, 10 minutes before.
I actually just checked on my phone on the YouTube while you were talking there, and on my phone it all sounds good. It does.
Seems to be going well to the TV at least.
Yeah.
The sound or the actual conversation?
The sound.
Oh, so the conversation's garbage.
The conversation's excellent. It always is.
It's yeah.
It's always great. It is. But yeah, thanks for coming back on and removable sanity. Thank you for coming back on once again. The last time for this year, which sounds big, but it's like a week or so. Week or two, and then it's the next year. It's not that long.
It's not that long. No, not at all. Not at all. It'll go like like a fart in the wind. It'll just disappear very quickly. But no, it's great to have Spain. And it's also good to have Goat Force back on again. We have missed him. But
my fault. I need to next year make it a goal to the people that come on in the chat and people that I know in the community well. I need to invite more people on. I'm terrible and always was terrible midweek gaming as well with doing that. People used to think they were crap guests because I didn't invite them back. It's just my laziness. It was really. It was. But yeah, we've got plenty of recommendations from Goat Force that I've actually got trailers up for Rogue and Roguelite. In fact, Goat
trailers.
Force.
You're telling me Goat hasn't provided us with actual gameplay, his own gameplay.
I didn't ask him to provide. Any. I could have nicked it off his videos.
You just want to see the skill of Goat. Come on.
I could have nicked it off his videos, but I just forgot to download his videos. I did. But
you can always feel free to rip off all of the videos on the channel.
I'll hold you to that.
Anytime.
I'll hold you
anytime.
To that.
It's a full hall pass. All day, every day.
So to anyone
Mittens will be 24/7 now.
So anyone who's new to you or your content that's listening on the channel or listening back, do you want to tell people what you're about and what content you provide on YouTube?
I would love to. Yeah. So I started on YouTube back in February of 2020, I think. So it's going to be 4 years next year. Isn't that crazy? Oh my God.
Crazy. Yeah.
Oh my God. Way back when I was using a voice changer at the time.
That's a story with that. That's a story.
Stubbs told me, you got to keep using that thing. You have to keep using it. It's the best thing ever.
No, me an indie gamer did not tell you that.
Others were saying, hey, you should probably stop with that. But Stubbs was telling me, you got to keep that voice changer going, man. It sounds great. So eventually I stopped with the voice changer and we deleted that content. But my channel focuses on roguelikes and roguelites. That's all I play. And thankfully, those games show up in a lot of different formats. So we're lucky this has been a great year for Rogues.
Mm.
Yeah, so I've been doing that, and
hang on. You forgot to tell people about your coffee talk and food talk.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a regular thing too. So we discuss all things food and all things coffee and all things life during the videos, and that often has me careening off into forgetting what I'm doing at times. YouTuber blindness, it's a real thing. It's a real thing that happens. And so it's been fun. We monetized the channel earlier this year. And because of that, I've been able to give away over 100 video games to our viewers this year. And we had a really good month last month. A lot of views came in. And so this week, actually, we're going to be giving away 15 copies of Tiny Rogues on the channel. That game has a big update coming. And so we're going to celebrate a really solid year by doing that. And eventually, what we want to do is give away what's called a go-kart. So if you go to the Gamers Outreach site, you can see a picture of this, but it's basically a mobile gaming station for children's hospitals. So it's hospital grade. They can wheel it around. That's our North Star. We want to be able to come together as a group and use the channel funds that are now being created to buy one of those for a hospital. Probably won't happen next year, but probably maybe in 2025. They run about 3,500 US. So we're not yet at that point. In November, on 47,000 views, the channel brought in about 175 US. So we're going in that direction, but we're still a ways off. But we can do giveaways.
It's really nice because you've always been consistent. Because I remember talking to you in the early days of the channel, and your goal has always been to help people and to donate, and you've never strayed. Some of your goals were a bit ambitious though to start with. They were. Because you're
what do you mean?
so
he's on Stubs. He's on the stubzgaming. Is what he wanted.
Well, he's made it. He's made it in life. But no. Your goals when it comes to what you want to do with money you make has never really changed. It's very, very generous and very, very heartfelt, kind generosity. But when you can eventually get there, it's good. It is.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, I have a day job. And I don't need the channel funds for, personal expenses. And so that's what it's all about. We have some members now. And so I have the emoji thing that channels do where you create the emojis and members can use them. And I just never really thought that was enough. I mean, I get people wanted to get involved to help support what we're doing and support the channel. But I didn't think that was enough. And so I have a cooking show now as well. Cheat Days with the Goat.
That's yeah, I did not know because I'm not a channel member. So
right
until you told me DM, I was like, where? It's like, well, you got to be a member.
Yeah. I wanted to do something nice for the members that are supporting a little bit more, and it was fun.
That exclusivity for just them.
Yeah. It was fun. I did barbecued Oreo bombs. It's a smoked Oreo that is wrapped in bacon.
Oh.
And then I used a flamethrower to crisp up the bacon. As anybody would do.
Yeah, the subtlety of a flamethrower does bring that nice smokiness to the to the table.
It really, I can confirm for you, it really does. It really does. And I wish I had smell-o-vision. We need to come up with smell-o-vision. It's 2023. Where the hell is smell-o-vision?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Just had a nice comment from the indie gaming chat. Proud of Goat Force. He's a legend and does awesome work on his channel.
I really appreciate that.
It's true.
So, just so I was going to try, because one thing we kind of slightly skipped over, just so those who may not know, and I'll probably say most people do, but those who may be listening later on, you will obviously know the difference between a rogue lite and a rogue lite.
Oh, that's true.
So, what are those differences, so that you can kind of get it? So, there's people who don't know, because I'm sure those who do know will do know, but those who don't, there are differences, isn't there?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, there are various schools of thought on this. So
that's why I asked it.
Yes, I know. Thank you. So my general way of thinking about this, and we're going to use Vampire Survivors because most people have played Vampire Survivors. A roguelite is going to allow you to gang what's called meta progression. And so you can go into the game, get some kind of currency back, and then you're going to come into a hub area. So if you imagine the area in Hades with the mirror, you got some upgrades that way. If you imagine the menu in Vampire Survivors where you're spending the currency and you're getting some permanent upgrades, that's meta progression. Roguelites have meta progression. Roguelikes do not have meta progression. You're not going to get some kind of permanent stat increase that's going to stick with you in future runs. So if you think about, and you mentioned that Indie Gamer is here, and he already knows what I'm going to say. Mention that with roguelikes, you don't have meta progression. And so a game that Indy and I enjoy and play all the time, basically,
I know what you're going to say.
Is Noida. And Noida is a game where you roll as a wizard, and when you die, you lose everything, and then you just come right back in and you do it again. You could argue that there's a form of meta progression happening there in terms of the wisdom that you're gaining. But that's where we start to split off into what is a roguelite and what isn't a roguelike. And that's just, we won't go there because we don't have to. We'll just simply say that roguelites have meta progression. And we can just leave it at that and everybody's happy.
So it's very much divided in the rogues community, the definitions.
I mean, it is,
I think it's because it's evolving. That's the thing, isn't it? It's ever evolving, and the genres
a lot
are
of
now
games,
starting to blend together.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Go. Even games that ain't roguelikes or roguelites are trying to add elements of it into games now. Is that correct?
Well, it's funny, if you look at something like Dave the Diver, that's another game that a lot of us know. It's just a wonderful game. Dave the Diver, when you dive into that blue hole, the ocean, it resets every time. It's randomly generated.
Okay.
Would I tell you that Dave the Diver is a roguelite? No. Does it have roguelite elements? Probably.
Okay.
It had enough where I showed it on my channel. And then somebody said, wait a second, I think that's a little bit of a stretch. And I said, I think you're right. I think you're probably right about that, but I like the game, and so we showed it.
That's fair enough. That is.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose the question is then, what kind of was this a genre that you've always been interested in, or is this something that you found yourself just falling into through just experimentation with games in general?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed them. Going back to Hades and games like that, I've always enjoyed the meta progression treadmill, the always progressing. It makes me feel like I completed something. I got a little bit more progress. And I think that all started with my love of the Soulsborne games.
Okay.
Where you get in there, you get your behind absolutely kicked in, just annihilated. But then you go visit the lady and she says, hey, you got all those souls. What would you like? And you say, I would like a little bit more stamina, please. And even though you got your behind kicked in, you're saying to yourself, you know what? Next time we're going to come back here and we're going to kick a little bit more ass.
That's just the thing, isn't it? It's that feeling of progression.
Yeah.
And I think for those who aren't used to the genre, that progression is very different for many different people. Some of the progression is too small, too slow. Some of it is actually too quick. They prefer, a much more harder sort of progression, doesn't it? So it's a very much a individual take on it in some cases, isn't it? It's
true, and some of the discourse out there around meta progression is pretty negative, actually. You see folks saying, well, wait a second, where is the fun in having to spend 10 hours playing the first level over and over and over again just to get past it once I've built up enough currency to pay for enough health upgrades? And I get that. It's valid. It's totally valid.
People who've never gamed throughout the 80s and 90s.
Could be the new gen, right? They're pushing back, but I enjoy it. I don't mind replaying areas. I think these games are relaxing.
Relaxing.
But also some of those genres, in those genres, even those areas are now kind of evolving because there's procedural generated areas now. So it's not always the same area these times, isn't it? In some cases, because of the procedurally generated levels are kind of evolving. It's not always the same. I can understand it as an early on in the genre, but now it seems to be, at least from my perspective, I would say more of a novice to that genre. That it seems to be evolving into a much more. I'm trying to think of the wording. The genre is evolving so that it isn't just going to be the same level over and over again. It isn't as stagnant, is it? It's going to be much more visually and in terms of gameplay differences, which is happening now. I can understand it from early on in the genre where it's just like one level and it's there you go. But I wouldn't say that's the case now. It seems to be almost like procedural generation is a much more common thing than it used to be.
Indies added in, the genre is more nuanced.
I think he's totally right. It's being used in a lot more different ways. The other day I played a billiards game that was a roguelite. So you see these independent developers doing some really interesting things that maybe haven't been done over and over and over again. When you get into something like the bullet heaven genre, where you have games like Vampire Survivors, with the success of that game, you have a lot of different games popping up now in that space. Somebody trying to be the next best bullet heaven. And
well, it's evolved, isn't it? It's not just that genre. I'm starting to see it in it's almost rogue aspect is now being moved. It's almost I would say inhabiting a lot more different genres as people are more experimental. I've seen it in like first person shooters now in some cases. It is become a much more evolving genre, and the crossovers are just kind of, I think they're just starting it. I think it's going to explode a lot further down the line than what it is.
Well, look at what they just did with the God of War DLC. Isn't that a roguelite mode? I don't have a PS5 and they haven't ported it over to PC yet. I hope they will at some point. But they added on a roguelite mode to that game, didn't they?
Oh, it's a shame Luke Steele was in the chat. He's played that and he'd be able to tell you, but I can't see him in chat. He may appear in a minute. You never know. But Yeah, it's starting to appear more. I'm just going to get VJ in here. Have you had much experience with rogue games, VJ?
I've played a little bit of Hades and the game that's on screen now. I think I remember discussing it with you. Removable.
Hades 2's on screen now.
Oh no, the Vampire Survivors. Sorry,
I'm
might be a bit behind. It's probably just me, but no, Vampire Survivors I've tried, and Hades. Hello.
Yeah, they're both great games.
What did you? Is it a genre that you're kind of interested in, or is that something that you've dipped your feet in? It's like,
I don't. You know me, Removal. You've played games with me long enough to know I don't really sort of try to say, well, I like this genre or that genre, etc. I mean, I wasn't even sure I'd like Divinity, which is probably the first game of its type that I've played, and I thought it was fantastic. So for me, it's just about the game. If it captures
that one
me,
that clicks with you, regardless of the genre.
it captures me, and it's really fun. Okay, what are we doing? Removable? Sorry, Stubbs. Are we going forward, or are we?
Sorry about that. It's just, do you remember I mentioned Luke Steele might appear in the chat?
I thought you fell asleep.
No, he just did. Yes, the DLC Valhalla is a full-blown roguelike mode. Just like magic, he appeared in the chat when I mentioned his name. Welcome, Luke Steele. So there you go, Goat Force. Answers your question.
Yeah, it's supposed to be very good.
Sorry to interrupt there, VJ. Carry on. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries. No worries.
Used to it, aren't you? They talking crap.
Yeah, really. I don't mind. But yeah, so for me, it's I enjoyed Vampire Hunters. I think for a few days, and Hades, I didn't enjoy at all. But yeah, it's for me, it's just about any game, any genre. If it clicks, it clicks. But I'll give it a fair amount of time, a few hours or 5 hours or 10 hours to, let it introduce itself. And I think that's fair, really, given that we live in a golden era of gaming. Well, we always have, haven't we? It's just that there's a lot more golden eggs about, so and plenty for everybody. So I'll just leave it at that.
It's one of those genres. As someone who I wouldn't have put myself down as a fan. It's one of, and not just in terms of that. It's just in terms of dying and going back again, and dying and going back again. As an old school game, you'd think I'd be used to it by now, but as I never got into. I think it's probably because I got burnt so many times from the old school games of literally spending hours and hours and hours trying to get through one level, before moving on to the next. I've kind of looked forward, as in my later years, to kind of more easier pursuits. But again, a bit like Souls-likes, I've found myself, indies have kind of pushed me into trying them again and giving them a bit more time, like yourself, feature, just letting them come on and see if they can impact you. And as I said, there is for me, roguelites is very much the same thing. I actually, Vampire Survivors, I really did quite enjoy. I really did enjoy. Currently, it's another one that I'm kind of enjoying at the moment, and they're kind of far and few between. But once they do click, they do seem to kind of, they do seem to like get a hook into you. Obviously, I'm not as good as like Goat Force here, who's pretty much probably covered every single one known to man by now, I suspect.
Have you mentioned the Souls-likes? I usually have a AA or a AAA game that I'm playing on the side that I'm not showing on the channel. It's just a me game. I just completed Lies of P. Have you gotten to that one yet? Oh,
yes. Yep.
What a wonderful game.
It is a very. It's some of the games I don't know. I kind of, some of the Dark Souls games, some of the Souls-like games, some of the roguelike games. Some click and some don't, and it's just one of those kind of things that I I find it hard as someone who's on the outside, I would say, of a fan base, to then try and promote that. So it's good to have like people like yourself who are so well versed in the genre to try and give it the the much needed PR it needs, and try and help bring people along to it, because it's from the outside perspective, it's going to be harder for me to kind of discuss things than it is, say, yourself, because you're a fan of it, And do you find that it's something that, do you find it's, as a genre, it's starting to fruition, it's starting to come in onto its own, or do you think it's still slightly a little bit,
It's really hard to say. That's a good question. It's really hard to say, because you have the AAA game Returnal, and I loved it, but I haven't heard that they're going to do a sequel or another game of that type. I guess what I'm saying is we don't see a lot of these types of games hitting the mainstream. Now, of course, we've got titles like Vampire Survivors that everybody and their brother is talking about, but I don't think it's so often that a rogue gets that type of attention, right? So I don't know. I think that we get better and better roguelikes and roguelites every year. If I think about the games I was playing in 2020 versus what's available now, and how often these games are coming out from independent developers, there are so many choices. The Bullet Heaven space, the Vampire Survivors likes of the world, it exploded this year.
I think it's because it's an easy access into the genre.
Yeah, I think so. It
was easy access, and that's what sold. I mean, it was for me. I was like, I don't have to do too much. I just kind of have to, avoid a lot of stuff. It was something I didn't have to kind of, I wouldn't say think about. I suppose it is. Let's be honest. It didn't have to think about it. It was a game that I could play during lunch and still enjoy, not have to think about it, which is something you don't normally see with a roguelike. Now, you would probably argue differently to that, because there probably is some out there that do it. But I mean, in general, the perception is not a lunchtime pursuit. Maybe for you, but not for me.
No, it's absolutely true. I think that's totally true. I wrote an article this year for Seasoned Gaming about appreciating Bullet Heavens, and one of the main arguments for why these are such great games that we need is that at the end of a long workday, you don't want to perfect. You just move your character on the screen and dodge stuff, and it feels good. You just watch the fireworks show on the screen, and it feels pretty decent at the end of a long day. So they are great games for lazier times where you don't want to think a whole lot about what you're doing. You just kind of point the mouse and go. And in some of the games, you don't even have to point the mouse. Just use the arrow keys, dodge the stuff, and the rest of the stuff happens all by itself.
That's not to say there isn't any tactical aspect to it. There is. But it's a much more relaxing aspect to it than your typical, I would say, roguelike. It's one of those things that I think that's where the blending of the genres is coming in, and I think it's because of that, it's allowing more people to probably go to get sucked in with maybe like Vampire Survivors, and then move on to much more intricate systems and games.
Right. Totally agree.
And it's one of those that I think do you find yourself, when you're going through and looking at games, do you find yourself finding ones that are clearly ones that you want to play, but do you find ones that you're trying to also potentially games that will kind of lead slightly other people into the genre?
That's a good question. I don't know that I actively think about that when I'm grabbing games to show off. I just try to play games that I enjoy playing. You know, sometimes I'll have developers reach out and say, hey, we would love for you to play our game and do a review of it on the channel. I don't do reviews. I just play games that I like and show them off. So if there's a game on the channel, it's because I like it.
And that's fair. That is, it's
yeah. I've never really been into the review thing. I don't think my opinion matters that much to put it out there to the world. I also don't want to put developers on blast. I don't want to get out there and say, hey, I think this game is bad. These are the reasons that I think this game is bad. Because somebody else might play the game and enjoy it.
Yeah, I don't think many, to be honest, I don't think many decent reviewers don't do that. I think there's, you know, if you're out there to just blast someone,
Right.
I don't think you're doing reviewing very well.
Right.
All by all means, critique something, but I always looked at it as, if you're going to critique something, at least offer some solution to it.
Sure.
Or don't critique it. You know, you
Agree.
can say, oh, the controls are clunky. Yeah, well, that means what? Explain how is it clunky? Is it because it's the actual the control system itself has got hitboxes are bad? Is it what? Explain it to a better, explain it than just saying, it's clunky. And I think those types of reviewers then don't do any favors for people. So I think there is. I think if you are out there to blast, clearly, then as you said, it's not something. I don't think you're not doing this. You're not doing the gaming genre itself any favors. And I think the gameplay side of things, which is what you're doing with this, is just as good because that in itself is. I've seen a lot more explosion from just people watching gamings as well, and enjoying content through just watching people play a game. We watch sports, so what's the difference with watching video games? And it's just therapeutic. I do it myself.
Right.
So it's I think both have a place in there. But as for me, it was like I speak inadvertently, you're showcasing off games potentially to newer people maybe as well. Not just the roguelites. Obviously, you've got a clear fan base of the roguelites in there. But I suspect newer people will be coming in there as well.
Right.
So in DS pointing something out to you, Goat, and you probably will agree from a different perspective. He says you do form review though, Goat. You just do it in a more laid back, candid way as it happens. So it's not you don't say. It's not an outright, but from when you watch your videos, you can gauge if you like a particular game. So it's a kind of form of review. It's not true. It's not your traditional style, but you can normally gauge if Goat likes it in the video. You can normally gauge it. You can.
Yeah. I suppose that's true.
Well, not any games that are on your plane that you've played and gone, no, don't like this. I suspect you've probably... Is that how you go? You play it first, then, or do you go from...
That's exactly right, yes. So I will usually do a run or two first and then make a decision. Is this something I like enough to show off on the channel? Because my goal every time with every video is to add something to somebody's wish list or get them to go to Steam and buy it sight unseen. And so if I don't like it, I'm not going to be able to do that too well.
Yeah, you can't
all about
can't fake happiness or enthusiasm.
I suppose I could if I was...
It'll be seen. It'll be seen. Yeah. People will see through it. They will see through it,
Yeah, if I was hopped up on enough caffeine, I think I could. But I don't want to do that. I want to find cool games that just can't find their place on Steam because they don't hit that review requirement right away. And then some of them, unfortunately, die very quick deaths. Yeah, they do. And it's so hard being an indie dev. And so if we can help some of the cool games out there find an audience, I'm all about that.
I kind of think even with some of them kind of falling to the void, it surprises me that how many kind of resurge once something clicks. It's almost like a trend clicks. Because it's not to say that, even like, for instance, Vampire Survivors, that wasn't the first one of its kind out there.
It absolutely true. Yeah,
absolutely true. It was something that clicked at that right time that just it cemented itself in. And it could have been, in fairness, I think it could have been any particular game in that genre that could have clicked. But if for some reason that absolutely clicked, and whether it is, you know, PR or something, just something clicked, I think that's the same thing. You know, things seem to kind of come into fruition in their own time. I've seen this a couple of times where games have been like, you know, like, oh, this game's been out for 10 years, but I've never heard of it. And it's absolutely, and also it'll just explode. And you're like, but it's been out for ages. And it's a shame it doesn't hit when it hits. Right. But again, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get it so that it hits, or it's seen, I should say, at the most optimum time, which is normally within the first 3 to 4 months of its release. Well, a year later,
it's funny.
It's a bit tougher, isn't it?
Big time. You know, you look at something like Lethal Company. I don't know if anybody here has tried Lethal Company, but this is a game that is in what I would argue to be very early access, where you kind of pop onto a truck. It's multiplayer, and your goal is to go into this creepy warehouse and go and find all kinds of junk and bring it back to your truck, and then buy more supplies, and then go back in and do it again. And it's kind of this FPS horror game in very early access. It's overwhelmingly positive right now on Steam with like 150,000 positive reviews.
That's good.
Me and a group of buddies Friday night said, hey, let's try this Lethal Company out that everybody's talking about. We got in there. We bought stuff on the terminal system. We walked out into the wasteland. Apparently, you're supposed to go find a drop ship that has all your gear that you just spent all your money on. We blew that. The ship took off. We didn't get any of our gear. We walked into the warehouse, and these ghosts showed up, and a spider showed up, and it was freaky, and we got killed. And I uninstalled the game. We didn't have a good time with it. So, but yet it's at an overwhelmingly positive with 150,000 reviews. So how does this stuff happen? I don't know. I don't know how it happens.
Again, so
how does one game make it, but another doesn't?
Yeah, it's a click thing, isn't it? It's a personal, an individual thing. You know, some things just hit with a trend and some don't. You can never really understand. I think you'd pretty go insane if you tried to create a viral game, a viral trend or something. I think you just go nuts, you know. And it's just one of those things, you know. The best way you can do is try and produce a game that's fun, and then if it, you know, if it hits, it hits. It doesn't, it doesn't. You know, at the end of the day, it's one of those things. It's hard to. I don't see how anyone. It's a hidden aspect which I don't think any gamer or any indie developer or any developer is going to crack, because we're ever evolving trends, isn't it, sort of thing. But as you said, like the game you spoke about, it was like for you, just didn't click. And I've had it myself. I've had it with genres where things just didn't click. You know, I've mentioned this before. The Souls as genre, I actually played Dark Souls, and same thing. I installed it. Never went near a Dark Souls game ever again. Sure. It took me 10 years until an indie game, in fact, kind of drew me back into it, and now I'm enjoying that genre again. It's something clicks, something doesn't. And I think it can be a variety of things. It could be your own personal where you are in your gaming development at that period of time versus, that game in question. You just something doesn't click with you. It's a hard thing to kind of get right.
Right.
But at least on the right side is that you're showcasing off games that probably aren't as well known, maybe to the mid. Well, do you think the majority of the roguelike community probably all were already aware of the games that you showcase, or do you still feel that you're showcasing off gems that potentially hasn't been seen before?
Well, I still don't think the channel is big enough where developers are reaching out to me saying, hey, we have this big game and we want you to take a look at this before anybody else. Sometimes people will comment saying, oh, wow, I didn't even know this was out there. This looks great. I'm wish listing it now. Sometimes they'll say, oh, hey, I watched a little bit of this on one of the other YouTubers out there that covers rogues, like a Splattercat Gaming, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And, he stopped playing the game and you're sticking with it. So I'm going to hang out here for a little bit. So that'll happen sometimes too.
Am I correct in him? He just seems to kind of jump from game to game to game, isn't it? Or at least it seems what I've seen from his channel. Am I wrong in that? Or at least every time I jump onto his channel, it's like, oh, it's something else he's playing. It doesn't seem to be like a consistent, oh, I'm going to play this right to the end. Or maybe I'm just not seeing that on his channel.
I don't watch him a whole lot. I just know he's one of the names that pops up all the time on my analytics that say, hey, people that watch your channel also watch this channel.
Okay.
He happens to pop up quite a bit. And I do that too. The games that I really do like, I will play a little bit longer, especially if the audience is saying, hey, we'd like to see more of this. Will you go a little bit deeper here? Will you attempt it with this character in particular? Then I'll do that. But sometimes I'm moving on quite a bit as well until I find something, that's pretty special where I'll stick with. Like, we did a full run of Returnal on the channel. That one stuck around for a while. Something like that really grabs me. When Hades 2 comes out, I'll be playing the hell out of that on the channel. That will be a mainstay for a little bit,
It's one of the trailers you asked me to get up, and I've had it on quite a bit already. Hades 2, as I know you're looking forward to it.
It's going to be great.
I will add something in, though, that Indie Gamers put in chat. He put, yeah, I agree with Removable. You're always best off making something that you're passionate about, rather than reverse engineering something something for clicks.
Yeah.
So I think I think he probably means the multitude of games that tried to rip off Vampire Survivors, because there was loads. There was obviously Vampire Survivors wasn't the first, but it's like with
Minecraft. Just say Vampire Survivors in itself, you could argue it's a rip off of other games. It's one of those things.
Minecraft popped. You had like hundreds of clones of Minecraft. I mean, a lot of some are decent, but you'll get the vast majority just copy and paste and not very good. But indie games all starts with passion. If it's a passion project, it will shine through. Hopefully, it will. Whether I've got that right or not, I don't know.
Yeah, there have been games that I have received from devs in the bullet heaven space that are just carbon copies of Vampire Survivors. And now, having played so many of those games, I really look for the ones that are adding some type of innovation to the bullet heaven space. I played one the other day where, it starts out, it's the typical bullet heaven, but you can transform into a vehicle and run the enemies over. That was pretty cool. I hadn't seen anything like that before. So with that subgenre in particular, I like to find ones that are different. You know, Death Must Die is taking off
Right.
quite a bit right now.
If you want to see that, it's on screen. Hang on, give me a minute. It's on screen. No, I messed up. Hang on a minute. There we go. Carry on, sir.
Just
Sorry.
brings the retro Diablo-esque look and feel to it, and it's filled with loot. It's very, very addictive. It's got kind of a story layer to it, but it is so easy to just go back over and over and over again. And the game isn't even doing anything that sophisticated compared to, you know, the Vampire Survivors of the world, but it just works. It's got a very nostalgic look to it. You'd probably agree if you played Diablo back in the day. Like, this is something that would draw you in. It's got awesome powers and there's loot, and people love to go back and get loot. So another game in that space that just had the stuff. It had the right stuff, and people are flocking to it.
And that's the thing. It could. You don't know what's going to say. Something could, you know, because am I correct? This has been out for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's in early access right now, and they are working on the big update that'll come first quarter, and that will include a new zone to play in, and that's going to be awesome.
It's one of those. Again, it's. I think games in general, the roguelites themselves. It's one of those games where it's. I think it's for me. Seeing people get into it is if you're not familiar with the genre, you kind of need something like this to lead you into it.
Yeah.
And then once you've got that lead into it, is then as most gamers do, that you evolve into searching out more content for it, more different games, more variety for it. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, as you start to look a little bit more, as you start to enjoy the genre, things start to evolve as a gamer by yourself, and you start going for looking at other channels, looking at other people who play these games, and then the channels like yours will then push people into potentially other games that they may not have even thought about or given a second chance for.
Yeah, it's totally true. You know, like Indie Gamer says in the chat, Hades is the gateway drug. It really is. And I'll hang out on the roguelites subreddit where somebody will show up and they'll say, hey, I really like Hades. What other games are there out there? And I'll post a recommendation or two, and they'll come back and go, oh my God, I didn't know this was a thing. This is amazing. This is exactly what I was looking for, you know? And I think you're right. I think you're right. They get a taste, and they come back and say, "Hey, give me some more of that."
You know, it's the same thing. I think you know, this is where the evolution of some people love their genres and they'll stick to their genres, and that'll be it. You know, I've got friends who are like, beat 'em ups. That's it. There's the thing. They will not go into any other genre. They're not interested. It is beat 'em ups is their only thing. You've got those who are, you know, racing car sim fans. That's it. They'll never get there into any other. They're just stuck in that genre, and that's where they're happiest, and that's great. But then there is the alternative gamer, I would like to say, who are willing to potentially try something, and that's when you'll get a lot more people start to, you know, evolve into that genre. One of the things I've seen before is, as I say, is like you'll get one guy in a group who go, "Oh shit, I played this game," and people are like, "Oh, really? You know, why did you play that?" It's like, "No, that's really, really good. Come and play with me." And then all of a sudden, you've dragged in 2 or 3 people, and then they start to, you know, it starts to spread and spread and spread.
Right. the game that's on screen right now is Witchfire, and this is a roguelite FPS. And when I saw the preview for this game the first time, I was shouting. I was that into it and got my hands on it, and it was pure addiction. I think this could be one of those types of games as well, where somebody tries this out not knowing that it's got roguelite elements. They just look at it and they go, "Oh, wow, that looks like a neat first-person shooter game by the astronauts that made Painkiller. I like Painkiller. Let me try this out." And then they get in there and they go, "Oh, wait, well, that's an interesting element. Okay." So I think that this one might have some pull as well. It's quite a game.
It's got looking from. I mean, one that I always think, Bulletstorm for me was I absolutely loved Bulletstorm. I loved their new take on that. So to see how they've evolved it onto this one, it'd be interesting as well.
It's pretty tremendous, and they do this interesting thing in this game where there's a witch that kind of serves as a game master. And, if you think about Left 4 Dead, how that had a game master where they're dumping zombies on you at certain times, this witch will dump calamities on you. And they're in-game events that just kind of happen, and they make for interesting challenges. But as you level up in the game, the witch gets new capabilities. So you are getting stronger, but the game is getting more challenging.
Is it ever evolving regardless of where you are as a player?
That's correct. And so not everybody is on board with that. I've seen some comments along the way saying, "Well, wait a minute."
To be honest with you, I can see that. I can see the reservation, because that is not an easy task to balance.
Yes.
And it's the balancing that's going to be the kicker. Because if it gets too challenging too quickly, it'll put people off. If it gets too easy too quickly, it's equally put people off. If, game-breaking bugs in terms of, you're leveling versus, the witch evolving, something, it's a hard task to balance.
Can I just interject there? Luke Steele's reappeared again in chat. He says Witchfire is so good. He reappeared when you were talking about that game. He's played it. He has.
Yeah, it's a great game, and they've done something unique where leveling up is help me, hurt me. And I've seen people chatting about this online because I struggled with it. I thought, oh, I've got these resources. Let's get in there and level up. And then I'd have runs where an army of 30 undead spawn right on top of me.
Wow.
I even had that happen during a boss fight. I had a calamity hit me. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. This is just vicious. But I think that it's opened up opportunities for creativity, because I've seen discussions online about this game where people have said, hey, if you want to play Witchfire really well, you never level up. Just get good and don't level up. And that way the witch won't get strong. And, I've leveled up quite a bit and can hold my own in the game most of the time. Every once in a while you get some crazy calamities and things just get wild in there. But it's fun. Even if you end up losing, it's fun. The runs are fun. That's what it comes down to for me.
And that's the main thing, isn't it? It's if you can enjoy the game regardless of the punishment, or maybe the challenge, I would say. Not punishment is probably a bit of a strong word. The challenge, that is what is going to keep bringing you back. The same with like Souls likes. I know I keep diving back to Souls like. It's the same thing in some cases. It's the challenge versus reward.
Yes.
And that is a hard task to manage. So once it's done well, it feeds that, I would say, almost that endorphic addiction.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's totally true.
And I think that's the thing. That's why this genre is very different from your standard genre. It's two sides of a different coin that's consistently battling.
Right.
The euphoria of getting through and completing the challenge versus the absolute rage of
yes.
Failing.
Yes, but if it's a roguelite, even if you fail, they typically value your time a little bit, where you just take your resources, you run to the mirror, and you get a little bit more health for the next time.
Exactly that, yes. I think that helps mitigate some of the negative aspects to it.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's still an individual thing. Some people say this is too easy, this is too hard. So very much, but that's where options come in. That's where the different, and that's where you can kind of mitigate it to some degree with, options and challenge options. I don't think I've seen, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I've ever seen too many difficulty in purists when it comes to roguelites. Not where it's saying... like the Souls-like. It's very much of, if it's difficult, it's a Souls-like. Don't mess with it. Where the roguelike, I don't think that's the case. Or is that something different you'd say is different?
No, I think you're right. I do think you're right about that. Yeah. And I agree with what Indy is saying in the chat, that the challenge is why it's so satisfying. If you get through your run, take down the boss after 27 attempts, it feels pretty good.
It's a strange one, I find. It's like you've almost got, there's a slight crossover between the two genres, but they're almost like very different fan bases. Is that, would you say that's correct?
Between the Souls games and
Rogues? The roguelike, yeah.
I don't know.
Because still dealing with it's a challenge and difficulty aspect to it.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm fans of both of the genres. If that's meaningful at all, I do like both. I've played a lot of the Soulsborne games over the years. I will never touch Sekiro ever again. Ever. Not ever again. Not for money would I touch that game. That one broke me. I cannot do the
parry system.
It's not the black. I cannot parry to save my life. And Lies of P destroyed me over and over and over again. But that one, I was okay.
Lies of P was a very different parry system. That was the thing I found was, to be honest with you, Lies of P, I would argue, is a gateway into the parry system, not the Souls-like genre, but it's a parry system, because for Lies of P, you hold down the parry for it to be meaningfully, for it to basically work. With any other parry system, it's tapping it at that most critical moment. So it was almost very, very different. And I noticed this when I was playing with Elden Ring. It's like, you're parrying on Elden Ring versus parrying with Lies of P was like, because I had the same thing when I first started, and VJ on this, I was absolutely very angry with it. Actually, it was the demo, wasn't it, VJ? I think I mentioned it to you, that I was just like, I just can't do this.
You're trying, VJ, on this.
Yeah. He's gone for a cup of tea. But I actually played the demo of Lies of P, and I couldn't get past the first boss. And it was it was the parry system that didn't click with me until it did, and then it really worked. And it's just because I didn't appreciate that you had to hold down the parry system because I was so used to, not holding down the parry system. It was basically tapping.
Yes.
Yeah. I was surprised that was that something that you found was it had that similar. Sounds like you had something similar.
Well, I really appreciated that the whole concept of Lies of P was the movement of the puppets and the various enemies that you were up against. The whole thing was trying to figure out the weird movement patterns because, some of those enemies would wind up for their attack 7 different ways, right?
And they attack
you think it's coming, but it's not.
Nope.
And then you think it's coming again, but it's not. And then they hit you. And you go, okay, next time, we're gonna turn the tables.
Right, because they do something different.
Hit you again. So that was really neat about that game. I can't tell you that I ever mastered the parry system. I got really good at putting points into additional max health. That's what saved me. That's what saved me in Lies of P and pushed me to the end. But I would recommend any fan of the Soulsborne genre should play Lies of P. It's such a great looking game. It's they play with that IP in a really interesting way, and I won't say anything else, but they kind of turn the story over on its head. Mm-hmm. It's very, very interesting. And I'll just close with Sekiro is a nasty game. That's it.
So that's the one thing I would want to play Sekiro, but I just don't think I would be good enough. And that's the thing. That's the thing. It looks a beautiful game, and it just the irony is, as a Tenchu fan, it just looks up my street. But there's no. I know in my head, I know it's not Tenchu. But it's the closest to a Tenchu game. I'm like,
Yes, it's very close. It's very close to Tenchu. You might enjoy it until you don't, because you've gotten killed by a boss 87 times, and I'm Genichiro, I'm looking at you. I made it through the second to last boss after attempting it for 3 weeks. I watched a lot of YouTube tutorials, and I finally got through them. And then I got to the final boss of the game. I played it one time. I was down very, very quickly. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass at this point.
Yep.
And I haven't gone back to it. But you should try it. You should get in there. You should get in there. You'll like it.
It's very noisy.
It's one of those games. I would, but it's like I just know I would probably end up as someone. The biggest issue with me at the moment is I'm still very as I effectively a newbie to the Soulsborne games. I'm very hesitant about which ones I go into, because as someone who literally, after playing one Souls, like Dark Souls, stopped playing the genre for 10 years, I don't want to go down that path again. I don't want to, break the progress I've made with the genre. I don't think I'd ever would, actually. I don't think I would. I've evolved as a person now to kind of just like, okay, this one just doesn't work for me. But it's that slight fear. It's like, it may actually happen again. Where I just get so...
Did you play Elden Ring?
I did. Yes.
Well, if you liked Elden Ring,
I did. I actually loved Elden Ring. Yeah. And to be honest, that wasn't the one that kind of got me into Dark. There was a variety of indie Dark Souls that got me into it. Okay. And Elden Ring was the one that I just kind of was like. Elden Ring was the one from Software. It is my second From Software game. Dark Souls was the first From Software game. Is it Dark Souls?
Yep.
Dark Souls. These Dark Souls was the first one that ruined it for the genre for me. And I would say Elden Ring was the one that cemented it. I wouldn't say it was the one that brought me back into it. That was definitely in line with the indie games that helped me bring that back into it. But that is one that cemented me back into it again. So I'm kind of hesitant because it's like I've had From Software break me and From Software bring me back, cement me back in. Do I now go back and get broken again by From Software when it comes to Sekiro?
You do. It's time to play Demon Souls. I think that's what you need to do next.
You know, Bloodborne apparently is one that's supposed to be is one that I kind of like the look of because that's very much Liza P. I say Liza P has some sort of inspiration from Bloodborne, hasn't it? Would you argue that?
I would agree. Yeah, I would totally agree with you. Well, I think that they coach you and push you to be more aggressive in Bloodborne. And I think that is also true of Lies of P, because if you take a hit, you've got to go back and deliver a hit in order to get a little bit of health back. So they encourage you to get in there and swipe at these enemies as opposed to taking more of a sword and board approach and absorbing a hit, waiting for your moment, and then going in there with a swipe like you would in Dark Souls. Yeah.
I would. I guess again, that's my fear. Is I don't want to be broken again.
I totally.
And that's where From Software is just very good at that. It's very good at breaking people. You know. So it was the indie Dark Souls genre that got me back in. So I'm kind of like, look, do you know what? Maybe I just say Sekiro isn't for me. Maybe when I've had I'll go down other paths. At the moment, I'm kind of dipping my toes more into the roguelikes genre anyway. So that's kind of clicked that niche as well a little bit in terms of that challenge versus reward sort of situation. But in terms of roguelikes, because that's what you're the specialist on, clearly there are some that you would say you'd recommend to those probably, I would say, if you could, what would you recommend for, say, fans of the genre and maybe beginners of the genre? Would you be able to name one or two that you'd be say, look, if you're starting off, go here, but if you're an elitist, maybe go here? I suppose the elitists probably already know, but I'm trying to think of ones that probably aren't well known, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. I think the beginners should just start out with Vampire Survivors or Hades, and if they find that they like Hades, then maybe from there they go to Curse of the Dead Gods and they play another Hades that's a little bit more challenging, in my opinion.
So a newbie is to play Hades?
I think so.
I tried Hades.
Didn't do it for you?
Well, we didn't give it long enough, but I wanted to smash my controller. I was fed.
Yeah.
I don't like dying. That's the problem. You find it relaxing. You do. But,
well, you need to buy. You need to get what I would tell you to do.
I'm joking. I don't.
You got to buy 7 controllers.
I'm joking when I say that. I don't actually throw the controller. It's just
do what you need to get to feel good again, but then just grab another controller.
Maybe. And this is someone who is dipping his toes as well as maybe it's isometrics. Maybe you should try a different roguelike. Because I know when it comes to isometric games, tactical, they work superb with me. For some reason, I've too struggled with isometrics when it comes to hack and slash games. Don't know why. I have no understanding why. But for some reason, hack and slash games on an isometrics just either frazzles my brain or puts me off. And it could be just as simple as that. So it could be that actually your 2D platforming kind of roguelike is a much better way to start off with than, say, your isometrics. And sometimes it's something simple like that, where it's just the actual visual reference.
Yep.
It's off-putting for your brain.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate it until I actually had an indie developer actually explain it to me. He's like, people's brains. He said it says there's a reason why platformers are really, there's thousands of platformers and there aren't so many isometrics when it comes to platformings. He said there's different genres and different styles that just suit people's visual understanding.
Right.
And it was kind of interesting to kind of think about it like that. And it's like, in my head, it's like, maybe that's one of the reasons why I don't like some games, because it's just not the game, not the mechanics. It could be just the visual style that just doesn't sit well with my cortex at that particular time.
Well,
sure.
I think I might give Hades a go. I do realise now, indie game, how stupid I sounded then. I didn't like dying in a rogue when it's part of the process, because Hades is actually a very graphically beautiful game. So I think I might have to give it another go. I did sound quite stupid there. Because it's part of the process, isn't it?
I said again, it could be just the isometric aspect to it. I know for me, Hades, it's one of the things for me. I struggled with Hades, but I actually did quite enjoy more of the 2D platforming types of roguelikes. That seemed to work better for me. I kind of seem to work really well when it comes to tactical turn-based RPGs. Isometrics seem to be the best way for me. Whereas like the 2D, almost like platform tactical RPGs, again, seems to put me off. So it could be a visual element that sometimes doesn't click with you. And that's just trying to understand yourself a little better.
I think VJ's back now. It is.
Yeah, for folks that like the platformers, Dead Cells would be a good starting point. And, if you like Dead Cells, then there's lots of other roguelite and roguelike platformers that, you could recommend out from there. But those would be good starting points. And for somebody that's been around the space for a while, Ravenswatch is a great game. It's in early access right now, and Ravenswatch is kind of like an MMO type experience, or imagine a sprawling Diablo type game that would typically go on for 60 hours, but you play the whole game in 30 minutes. With a timer counting down against you. You're trying to get strong and build up for the final battle that's going to show up, when the timer counts out. It's fun. It's very challenging, but it's fun. And that's made by the folks that made Curse of the Dead Gods. So the art style is epic. You can play as folk heroes, which is a lot of fun too. So Red Riding Hood is a playable character.
Once upon a time,
Pied Piper of Hamelin is a playable character. And they all play super unique from each other. So Ravenswatch is a great game as well. Very challenging, but a lot of fun.
Is that what's on the screen, Stubbs?
It is now, because I downloaded it. I forgot to put it in the OBS.
It's like, boom, there you go.
I probably blasted people's ears out for about 2 seconds while I muted the music.
Oh, okay. You said this is early access at the moment, you were saying?
This is an early access, and they have 2 of the 3 total chapters built out. They've added a couple characters along the way, like Aladdin. Aladdin was a newer character that they added. He's very interesting to play as. They just added Sun Wukong. Very interesting character. I am very partial to the Pied Piper, but it's got an awesome look. Is it because of his play
style, or is it a skill based?
Yeah, the play style is very interesting. He is kind of a summoner of sorts,
Mhm.
and he is putting rats out there constantly that you can then control and send into the enemy groups.
Are we taking
And
basically
then,
he's like a necromancer of the rat kind?
yeah, that's exactly, yeah. I almost said necromancer, to be honest with you. Yeah, so I'm glad you did. I'll steal that. Yeah, he does play like that. And then you can, get all kinds of interesting powers. You can even make the rats explosive at some point. So it's a great game. It's challenging, but I will say that the devs have done a great job of making each character play very, very uniquely. Uh, and I think that they're looking at a lot of the analytics and the play data that's coming because, for a while, the game was extremely, excruciatingly challenging, especially if you were playing as a single player.
Yep.
And I think that they've improved things quite a bit.
Speaking, you've kind of really worked well into the next question I was asking. Speaking of challenging, do you feel that these types of games should have the option to make it easier depending on the person in question? Not just for accessibility in terms of bringing new people into the games, but also as the genre itself. Do you think it allows itself to still be as enjoyable, but maybe tweaking the play style to suit the player rather than say the actual type of the game?
I do. I definitely do. I'm a big fan of difficulty settings. I think that accessibility is always a win, and thinking about all types of different players that are out there. Folks that have 30 minutes a week to play. They don't want to play a difficult game where they're just going to get blown out the first 2 minutes in over and over and over again. Give those folks a break. Yeah, I'm a fan of having the option. Make it a selection for folks. And then on top of that, you talk about accessibility and people that game differently. And maybe they use different style of controller setups where they can't pull off those quick, precise movements. I mean, me myself,
those
I have
issues specifically have those sort of factors in it, and so having those options to kind of deal with those, like button remapping, tweaks to certain particular settings. Maybe one button pushes. We didn't have to keep tapping the button. Those little tweaks do help elevate a game in terms of accessibility. And it's just, I was just saying, this is kind of harkens back to our early conversation. I do know that when the Soulsborne side of things, that is kind of frowned upon, whereas the roguelike seems to be a much more forgiving, much more welcoming of that availability to tweak and change it to suit the player's preference or abilities.
Yeah, it's true. And I wish it was the other way around. I mean, I'll admit to you right now, when I played Lies of P, I went out and I got a trainer for it. And when I was getting ergo from killing enemies, it was being multiplied by 2 because I don't want to grind. I don't want to play the area 17 times and get blown out. I don't have time. I just don't have time for it. And I think having the choice is a nice option. I get that there's purists in the Soulsborne genre, but I mean, if I was in charge of the world, these games would have difficulty settings and all kinds of accessibility options so that anybody can come in and enjoy it. Yeah.
I mean, in fairness to, I'll take obviously From Software, but in fairness to the last one, Elden Ring did provide an alternative to, I would say, your typical challenge options, which is like easy, hard, extra hard, with the use of summons. So
Yes.
summons that was a different way of looking at making the game easier. And I'll fully put my hands up. I use summons pretty much most of the time.
Same.
You know, it was like, yep, I'm using summons. I actually enjoyed the summons. It was exceptionally helpful. It kind of tied me to the game even more because of them.
Yes.
I ended up basically wanting to collect them all. It became like a Pokemon situation at that point.
Yes.
It was like, gotta grab them all, just to see what they do. But that was a different way of evolving the challenge options. And so even that is being slightly pushed into the Souls type games. But from the roguelites, I've never seen the purists, at least not that I've viewed upon. There don't seem to be many purists in saying, well, actually, no, a roguelike has to be very, very challenging. And it's only the metadata. So the meta, sorry, my brain's going.
Meta progression.
Meta progression that you should rely on, nothing else. I don't see that as much.
There probably is them kind of people, and they go, I guarantee there is. There would be.
It doesn't seem to be at least as prolific. Am I saying that? Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's the way I'm looking at it from this point of view, anyway.
I think there's plenty of people that play those games that want additional challenge options. They want some kind of, and I'm thinking about Tiny Rogues. I think Tiny Rogues has a system called Inferno, where you can add even more nastiness to your runs. You're going to get hit harder. You know what I mean?
You go the opposite way, where you actually increase upon it.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a unique aspect. So you basically, instead of going from the opposite direction where it's reducing the difficulty, you set as Luke's pointed out, you set as a default base difficulty, and then it's sliding the opposite way upwards to increase it to suit more of the challenge that you require.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I mean,
if you look out there,
understand it as long as the base is easy enough for those who play the game, I suppose, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. If you look out there at some of the folks that are playing the new Risk of Rain, you're going to see a lot of challenge type videos, where, hey, I did this thing at, game level 47. Top difficulty. I only used one gun. That kind of content.
Well, there's the infamous meme, isn't it? It's like I think you've seen it, may have seen Goat, where there's two devs watching a YouTube, and he's like, the guy has gone through the entire game with only a turnip as a weapon, and then you see the guy at the back going, but why?
Yes, 100%. Yes. Yeah, it's totally true. Yeah,
I think a challenge is going to be, it's an individual thing, but accessibility is for everybody. The one thing I always find about accessibility when it comes to games is you won't realize how much you need it until you get older.
Yeah.
And then you're going to really wish. This is the thing, that so those who gatekeep really are going to find themselves frustrated they didn't ungatekeep early on. Because I'm telling you, if you're getting to like the age of me when your eyesight's starting to slow down and everything's starting to stiffen up,
it's totally true.
You are happy for accessibility options.
When I use a controller for too long, my thumbs will swell up on me. And so oftentimes, I'm usually playing games with keyboard and mouse, and my friends give me just a ton of shit about this, but I actually use 2 foot pedals for shift and spacebar. I've got foot pedals below my table. Yes. And they stop my thumbs from having to hit shift. Well, I guess spacebar, and then my other finger reaching for shift, and it does wonders for my hands.
That's a full body workout.
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm getting my steps in. The Fitbit's like, you must be working out right now, goat. And I'm like, I'm not, but I'll take it. Give me those steps, damn it.
Wow,
that's right.
I never would have thought. I got a little secret out of coat there. You did.
How about
The
it?
foot-
How about
the
it?
footsteps.
That's
Part
right.
of the secret sauce.
That's
Well,
right.
It's not as if it's. I know people. I do. It sounds like Stubbs is kind of shocked, but it's not as if that. You know, you see people who will do a Souls-like game just by using a dance mat.
Yes.
So it's not as if there aren't options out there to kind of do these things. It's just that we're kind of set in our ways with a preset of controllers, and it's like you've got to use your controller for this, you've got to use your mouse and keyboard for that.
Right.
It's almost like a elitism in terms of how your controller setup is, you know. And it's like it shouldn't be, but we've kind of, I think we've kind of gone into it with a preset mind.
Yep.
So when we hear about that, it just, as you said, it just shocks people. Just like Stubbs is like, what?
Yes.
Yep.
I've never heard of that before. I haven't.
Yeah, I remember going to the doctor for it, and of course they take the X-rays, and they go, "Oh, we found inflammation." And I'm going, "Oh, that's really great. You found inflammation, right? So, that's what's causing the swelling. It was inflammation the whole time, right?" And the doctor says to me, "Well, boy, we think you're gonna have to slow down on the games." And I'm thinking, we're thinking that's not gonna work.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I'll be honest, I thought, boy, if they're taking games away from me, I don't know. You get into a little bit of a depression thinking about that, because this is a lifetime hobby for me. And so, you just get creative, and then all of a sudden the foot pedals show up. And it's like, okay, all right, we can do this. We're getting steps in now.
Exactly. That's the thing. And this is the thing. It's going to get to the point when, you're going to need that text bigger. You're going to need something that's going to be easily adaptable when you're older, because if you want to be gaming until, you're 99, like Stubbs, you're going to have to kind of,
Well, I've only got 2 years to 99, so do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So this is the thing. This is why I think it's one of the things I think people are going to. It's a weird, because I think gaming is still. If we realize that gaming is still a young hobby.
Yep.
We don't really appreciate how young it is. 1967, 1970 was. It's a very young hobby still, and the first generation is coming up to old age.
Yep.
And it's only going to be then people are going to start realizing that accessibility is a much more needed thing than it is. I think there's going to be some benefits to it as well. I think I mentioned this before. I said I think loneliness will be kind of pretty much removed, because I think a lot of us, I know me and you, we'll probably still be gaming about 80, 90 over across the internet, chatting to each other. It's like, even when you're old.
I hope so.
So I think that's going to help out in terms of, mental health. But I think in terms of accessibility, I think we're still a little bit behind.
Well, by then, I'll have reached out to the generative AI professionals, and I'll have 17 different versions of myself creating content on the channel. And you may think that you're playing a multiplayer game with me, but it'll probably just be another version of me. You'll still have a good time.
2.4.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I think it's one of those things. I think it's exciting times, and as you said, the genre as itself is evolving so rapidly. Where do you see the future of roguelikes going?
Oh, I think that the indie developers will continue to advance the genre and continue doing things with random generation. I think that whether we'll like it or not, we will probably see more random generation with AI art and AI writing and things that are kind of easily found off the shelf. Because look, one or two people, there's only so much you can do in a day, and they have to push these games out. And, it can be an easy source of various things, whether it's art or written content for your story or what have you. So we'll probably see more of that type of stuff happening. But I think that a lot of these types of games will continue to be pushed out of the independent space. I'd like to see more in the AAA and AA realm, your Returnals of the world and such. I would put Witchfire in that category as well. But I don't know. I think it's always going to have a home in the indie space.
For me, I think it's going to evolve. Whilst the AI is going to come on, I think it's not. I think it's the Pandora's box. It's opened now. I think it will be very much still on a leash for a couple of more years yet. Yeah. I think the big focus is probably going to be the displays. So AR and VR. I think AR is probably going to be the next big thing.
VR
at the moment, I think is going to be held off because of the way humans react to VR. Some humans do it just really frazzles their brain being in.
Yeah.
Well, hang on a minute. I've got the Quest 2, and I can operate it quite fine without even getting dizzy now. However, when I first started playing it, I did get a bit dizzy, but I no longer really get dizzy.
That's training, and that's your brain. You've trained your brain into that. And
with VR though, there's no way they'll get to a point where people won't get bit dizzy, because you're supposed to be in another reality. You're not supposed to be in your living room. You see, it's like you're out of this world. So that's a bit difficult to actually.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with claustrophobia. Some people just cannot deal with that. They cannot deal with a enclosed aspect. There's certain factors that just won't work for them. This is where I think AR will be a bit like it will be the lead into VR. It will be the entrance point, because AR means you can still see the world around you. You can still enjoy the content you want. You can still fully, see 100, 300-inch screen in front of you whilst talking to your wife beside you. Where VR is very much, as you said, it's in your own bubble, your own world.
It is as such, but I will say they've got
some people are going to struggle with that.
They've got some safety mechanics in, because obviously you draw your barrier, and if you go out the barrier, the head you can see, the headset won't let you hurt yourself. You draw a barrier. As such.
Oh yeah, right? I don't get me wrong. I think that's still there. I just think that some people, even with, we've seen the funny videos where someone's got a VR helmet and
VR videos probably.
And they fall off it and they absolutely crap themselves. It could be just the fact it's too immersive. Some people just can't handle that immersion. Where I think AR at this stage is going to be the lead into it. I think AR allows things to happen in the real world a lot easier. So one of the things I'm seeing is that AR is now being more utilized in your day-to-day basis in terms of working, in terms of jobs, where VR is a very much more specific.
I bet Goat's got VR. Have you got VR, Goat?
Yeah, I have a Quest 2 as well. And
it's my son's VR, but I say it's mine, but it's his really. When he lets me on it, that is.
Yeah, I use mine a handful of times a month. I think it's cool. I think that they need to make it more comfortable. I think that they need to come up with an omnidirectional treadmill that doesn't cost thousands and thousands of dollars to have in your home. it's quite enjoyable when I go into the garage when I'm the only one home and I've got the whole garage to do room scale VR. I can't do games with, I think it's called smooth motion. That's where you are moving with the controller itself. I need games where you can do the teleport movement, because if I start moving in the game, I can't do it.
That's unusual, because the design thing for Iron, so people teleporting, I've had people where they say they can't handle that. They actually need the smooth walking motion to kind of feel themselves grounded. So that's unique. I must be, I've never heard that. So actually, that's kind of unique.
Yeah, if I'm walking in VR but not walking in real life, it's a vomit comment. Yeah, it totally does. It's not great. Yeah. So, thankfully there are a handful of games that I've played that have the teleport movement, and it's fine. And there are some rogues on the Quest 2 as well that have been fun to play. But I think, again, we need the Omni treadmill that the average person could afford in their home if they had VR, because it makes it better. And I think that they just need to come up with some kind of device that has the form factor of a pair of sunglasses.
Well, yeah, AR's already done that. They've already got that as a form factor. Yeah. But trying to get a VR with the computing board, the issue they found, well, for the AR, they've had to put the brains, as if it were, for the AR aspect into almost like a separate box, because for something that's comfortable to wear on your face, as you said, like a pair of glasses, it has a certain weight limit. And so to get that weight limit down to where it's comfortable, they've got to place the software and hardware effectively elsewhere. So it sits at the moment, which the one thing I'm thinking of is called the X-Real glasses. It has effectively almost like a battery pack, little pack, almost like the best way to describe it is like, do you remember the iPods?
Yes.
It's like that, but it just sits in your pocket, and that is the brains of the AR device. So if they could do that with VR, then I think you're right. You've got something you can just sit, relax, and just enjoy, the whole VR experience around you, and that will happen. As time comes along. But it's one of those things. It's probably not just it.
Right.
It's one of those things. I can imagine it. It will happen, but we won't realize it. I think it's probably going to be closer than we realize, to be honest with you. I think VR will happen, but I think at the moment, I think AR is kind of the one that's pushing the boundaries for a more comfort, at least. And then it's just going to.
So the Quest 3's
VR catch up.
The Quest, I haven't got. But VR's not for the masses. VR's is niche, and people will pay it. I believe the Quest 3 is selling quite well. But then again, PlayStation VR, but PlayStation's also £500 for their VR too.
Right.
But that's what I think AR is going to be for the masses, because AR, the good thing about AR is it has multifaceted in what you can utilize it. So what I've seen some of the AR glasses at the moment is, for instance, a perfect example is you'll get a video call, and the guy will be looking at something in front of him saying, okay, he's leaving an electrical box. I need to rewire this electrical box. He'll be able to view the object in front of him. He'll video call. The guy will be like, oh, okay, here's an overlay. He'll put that overlay in front of the guy's glasses, and then he'll be able to fix it there and then with the AI glasses. And I'm starting to see remnants of that and the power of some of the software coming through already. So that is really cool. That's what I think it's just going to push through. I think that's going to push the VR to come through. It will happen, but I think that's the AR aspect is starting to come through because it has in real life applications.
Yeah, that is an interesting use case, and I've heard of trucking companies utilizing that where the driver is looking at it, but there's an engineer or a mechanic on the phone looking at it as well. And leading them through the process of fixing. I guess I want something where I put the glasses on and I can put plates of fried chicken all over the damn house, just all over the place, and see them whenever I want and go, you know what? This is a cool place to hang out in virtually.
There is one.
You know, that's what I want.
That's cool, but there is one question I've been meaning to ask you. What is the goat cooking up for Christmas dinner?
Oh man, we've been talking about that. We went out and got another one of those Popeyes Cajun turkeys. You guys have Popeyes out by you?
We don't
fried
in the
chicken?
UK, but I tell you what, fried chicken.
Yeah, this is they cook it, they fry it, and then they freeze it, and it's loaded with Cajun butter and spices and all kinds of stuff. So you're basically just reheating it. So we're gonna do that, and then we're probably going to do a couple smoked pork shoulders. Yeah.
What about your turkey competition?
Fully smoked?
Is the turkey competition not on this year?
Oh yeah, no, we had the turkey competition. Yeah, turkey competition happens. Yeah, that's an annual thing. There were 6 or 7 turkeys this year at Thanksgiving.
Has this been mentioned in your videos?
I think it did come up.
I need to go back and listen because I love the stories about the turkey competitions you have.
I was talking about doing the mango habanero deep fried turkey this year, but then I drove past the Popeyes and their sign said, "We still have turkeys." So, it was kind of a done deal at that point, because they're amazing. Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll probably do a ham as well because we're going to have a lot of people.
Honey glazed?
Hang on. You've been corrected by Pixel Slapper. I think he's joking. He's joking. Ignore me.
You really thought Popeye. I wouldn't be surprised if Popeyes, the American food chain, does make its way over to the UK.
To be fair, they're all starting to come over here. Goat, they are. A lot of the American food chains are starting to come over here now. We've got
great news.
5 Guys.
But there is a little bit of a difference because there are certain food preservatives and food chemicals we're not allowed to have.
That's true.
I was going to say, with all
a very different, slightly different tasting, slightly different way of dealing with some of the food.
We don't have chlorine all over our chicken. We don't.
Yeah.
Usually.
I was going to say, you'll all be so healthy with all the American restaurants coming over.
They are coming over.
All the health food, all the deep fried health foods.
I believe Taco Bell's here.
Okay. Yep.
I'm not sure about. I don't really live near cities, so there's probably more.
There is Taco Bell. Yeah, there is more. There's a couple of things that kind of through. White Castle. I think I heard rumors that they said that was going to come over here.
Oh man. Yeah, now you're talking. I see. I aged out of Taco Bell and White Castle.
I'm
you
surprised.
Just get to that point where you have some Taco Bell, and the next day you go, "Oh man, wow."
I'm surprised.
Literally.
I'm surprised that In-N-Out.
Yes.
I'm surprised that In-N-Out place ain't here yet. In-N-Out burger or something.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I'm surprised they've not tried.
I had it out in Utah. Yeah, it's tremendous.
I don't know.
A lot of health food there.
To be honest with you, I'm surprised that you didn't go down the curry route.
Yeah, we definitely do have curry from time to time. My wife does a lot of interesting dishes with curry and chutneys that are really, really good. But probably not for the holidays. Usually on the holidays, the deep fryer and the smoker are out there in full force getting a workout.
I think the weirdest one strangest one I ever did was I had 2. One was I went to a friend of mine who's an Indian, went over to his house and had it is basically a curry roast dinner, which was just absolutely amazing. And then the other one was actually having goose. which
Oh,
for the UK
wow.
is kind of tradition. It was actually more. It was supposed to be more traditional than turkey. Goose was our kind of our thing, but turkey kind of blew that out of the water. I think from around after the war, is goose was pretty much almost finished off, so they went to turkey instead. But goose was a different one for this year. I was like, wow, that's a bit much more a stronger bird to eat.
That's got to be similar to duck, right?
Yes, I found
Okay.
it was lovely. Don't get me wrong. I had it with goose with honey and lemons, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And the goose fat. Oh, if you want to do good potatoes, goose fat and potatoes, yes, very true indeed. It is a hell of a lot more expensive.
Wow.
We did it once, and I literally saved it. It's like, do you know what? I'm going to try it. I saved up for it, and it's like, you know what? It's worth it, but it's very expensive. Yes.
Wow. That sounds good.
See, what about you, Stubbs? Are you going to be going to Mackie D's?
No, turkey.
Having turkey?
Yeah, we have
Proper
to.
turkey, not that Iceland job that's frozen with a little bit of duck fat in the middle of it.
Iceland, no. Oh,
You've never seen Iceland? It's like the triple bird turkey.
Do you mean like am I getting a fresh turkey, or do you mean am I getting one from like Asda or Aldi? Or do you mean am I getting one off a farm? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Are you getting one? Are you getting farm version, or are you getting, like, as you said, the Iceland, triple bird?
Well, I'm not getting the Iceland one, but I don't know where we're buying ours from actually. I haven't got a clue. I'm not getting goose. I've never even thought of goose. Probably the reason goose is so much more expensive is hardly anyone has it in comparison.
That's one of the reasons, because it's bloody expensive.
They were crying last year about there was going to be a turkey shortage, and there weren't. It was to inflate the prices last year on turkeys because they caught this guy out. They did last year. He was on TV.
Some guy was scalping turkeys, wasn't he?
Yeah. Well, no, he reckoned he couldn't afford people, and he brought up his accounts and that. And this woman live on TV called him out, and she brought up his accounts live in front of him, and he didn't know what to do. Well, you've made over $1 million this year. You got no money.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. But it was last year. There was a big controversy over all turkeys. But in the end, there was no shortage at all. It was something like that. There was a bit of a scandal over it, but there's been no mention this year about it. There hasn't.
Wow.
Don't worry, Pixel Slapper. Just because we're talking about Turkey Cast doesn't mean we're.
Well,
did you not hear my speech about the curry?
Hang on a minute. You must have missed last week's, because at the start we were talking to Masuku, and I was asking about does he eat reindeer at Christmas. So hashtag reindeer cast last week. So
it's lovely. You should try it.
And when goat's on, you have to bring up food. You do. You just have
Gotta
to
do it.
Well, we haven't brought up goat. Admittedly, you'd assume that goat would be for Christmas, but clearly not.
No.
It depends on what you can afford, Indie Gamer. It is nice to get one from a farm, because I do live in a rural area, but the price is vastly different. It's not as cheap. You see, it's a lot more expensive. It is. But I will find out what we're doing about turkey. I don't think it's from a farm, no. We have done that one year, but
Are you a fan of goat?
I can't say one way or the other. I don't think.
You've never tried goat? I don't
think I've eaten that. No, have not.
Goat's cheese.
Yeah, no.
It's nice. Not. It's nice. I will tell you now. It is very nice. Yeah, it's a very nice meat.
It just seems wrong for me to eat it, though.
It'd be just like eating part of yourself.
Yeah, that's no good.
It's Mrs. loves goats, absolutely loves goats. So it's like one of the things we kind of nibble on a regular basis. Yeah, it's goat in the curry is very good.
Really?
She has a lot of
okay.
Goat curry. It's a very nice. But she has a lot of
over Christmas.
Goat.
I will have curry turkey curry, because always we have loads of turkey left, and usually we end up having everything, like curry.
If you're going to have
all
leftovers,
sorts. Yeah.
surely it's going to be the traditional bubble and squeak.
Not really.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
Oh, yeah. Now, I actually got my missus into this. She had never tried bubble and squeak as well. Bubble and squeak is technically the leftovers of your roast dinner or your Christmas dinner, and it's effectively fried up on a skillet.
Okay.
All mixed together and fried up on a skillet, and that's it. And then you basically utilize it with the leftover, any leftover meat. It's absolutely gorgeous.
I'm into that. I'm into that.
It is literally, you take everything, your mashed potatoes, your vegetables, your meat, your your stuffing, everything, you put it all together, you mash it up, and then you basically put it on a skillet and fry it. Lightly fry it either side. Make it almost like a hash, effectively like a hash brown, I would say. Is that American terminology? It's like a hash.
Yep.
And it's like that, but it's got all of that, and then you
Did you just say a hash brown? That goes in a breakfast.
Yeah, but not in
does.
Americans have got a different version of hash. Is that correct, isn't it?
What's a hash brown
Yes.
in America then?
It's diced up potatoes that are fried, basically.
Sounds
and
the same.
up. Yeah.
Sounds the same.
Yeah, they do a lot more different things though. I think the ones we're used to is literally, as you said, fried potato. Just but the Americans do a lot more differently with the hashes.
Fair enough.
It's a little bit more diverse, is what I'm trying to think of.
They probably do bubble and squeak over there. Probably just call it something different.
Yeah, we have a corned
Squeak and
beef
bubble.
hash, that you can get. You've got potatoes and corned beef and a
you seem
gravy.
to you mix it up with your hashes, don't you? You really do, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Effectively, it is like that. It is just basically, and maybe that's what it is. It's just literally, you've taken effectively the roast dinner or your Christmas dinner, blended it all together, and then just slightly fried it together.
You've just summed it up. Well, the Christmas dinner it's just a roast dinner.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have lots of different vehicles to consume meats and grease. So, this one being a hash format with potatoes, the potatoes really are just a vehicle for beef and grease.
They're the binder to the beef and grease.
Yes.
And it works.
It works. It just works. It's a beautiful thing. It's a party.
It does. It is, and it's one of the things. If you've never tried bubble and squeak, I would recommend just try it. And again, it does work for your leftovers for your roast dinner or leftovers for anything. It just seems to kind of really work. But what I would say is, when you're frying it, you kind of want to give it a really good crisp. So you really want to give it that almost slight charring. In some cases, not too much, but just a slight charring to kind of give it that nice crunch to it. And it's brilliant. Pictures up, honestly, it's leftover potatoes are terrible the rest of the way. Once you blend it together, it takes on a whole new meaning. It really does.
UK Daz, how you doing, mate? Hope you're doing well. Just for a chat, Dazzy baby. I'll catch up with your podcast tomorrow, mate. I'll give it a listen. I will.
Yep, for those listening, do check out the old Dazcast. He made it today.
The Dazcast is back. It's,
with Masuku, himself, Dreadpool,
Lewis. Venomous AK.
Yep. So do check that out.
Over on Twitch.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. See, we've moved on from roguelites to
VJ's. I don't think VJ could get a word in edgeways. He left, but he could have jumped in, but he's probably busy. He is, but he's jumped out. He has.
It was fun. It was a fun discussion.
It was a good show. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you're busy, man. You got to get playing rogues, or what time of day is it where you are? 6 o'clock, 7?
Yep. It's going on about 6.
So dinner time.
It's dinner time, man.
That.
Fry up that chicken.
Tea time. Tea time.
Get that grease going.
That cheek, yeah. Honest. I'm surprised, to be honest, you just haven't, you haven't blended the chicken and the honey glazed ham together in some way yet.
Well, there's still time.
Just the turkey and the glazed ham, you've worked a way to kind of blend them together to make it one big, meat consumable.
There was, and this is no joke, I do a lot of cooking with my brother-in-law, and we usually submit a turkey together. And I said, hey, what if instead of going with the mango habanero injection into the turkey, what if we blended up breakfast sausage and we blasted that into the turkey? What do you think about that? How do you feel about it?
Isn't it like a stuffing? Effectively, it's like a potato, a sausage stuffing, isn't it?
Well, it would be, but usually you put the stuffing in the carcass, and I'm saying we blend up the sausage and blast it into the breast and the wings and the meat of it. And he looked at me and he said, "You are a sick bastard, but I love it." And so we haven't done it yet. But I think the day will come where sausage and turkey meet in a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
I will say it's one of the things that my stepfather does really well is he does his sage and onion stuffing, but he puts in sausage meat in the sage and onion stuffing, and it just works.
Yes.
So I agree that the sausage and turkey thing, it's only a matter of time before it evolves. It's going to happen.
It's only a matter of time, right? And then you deep fry it on top of that. Because
it's going to happen. You must be the first one to do it and capitalize on it,
That's right. I'll own the process. Yes. I'll get a patent on it, and I'll sell it as my IP. How about that?
Exactly. You'll be like the goat's KFC. Yes. Or see, when we go KFC, it'd be sausage FC. Hey, that could be.
Love it.
Sausage fried chicken.
Love it.
See, that'll be on the next show. We'll be just trying to work out. We'll be trying to see if once you're on the millionaire route, we're like, have you got time to tell us about your new venture, the Sausage FC?
When I'm on Oprah and I'll wave to all you guys. I'll do like a special wink, and the two of you will know that it's for you. And then Oprah will start launching sausage-filled turkeys into the crowd, saying, everybody gets one.
One for you.
Everybody gets one, right? Yeah, that's what I'll do.
That's the future. You see, that's the future.
That's what's going to happen.
It's just going to work. It's the evolution.
It just works.
Exactly, it just works.
But I won't keep you any longer, Goat, because I know you're a bit of a busy man. And thanks for coming on. It's been a fun show. But do you want to tell people where they can find you? Yeah,
it's been fun. I appreciate it. We should do it more often.
Yes, definitely.
This was great. You guys are great for having me. It was great talking to both of you, and apologies to VJ if we stole the show away. You guys can find me on the Goat Force Gaming channel, and we play rogues and we give away video games. We gave away over 100 games this year. We like doing giveaways, and we're just going to look for ways to do more and more cool stuff as time goes on and as the channel grows. And that's about it. That's about it for me. Really appreciate the time. It was fun. And like I say, we should do this again sometime. I'm out there on the Twitters at Goat Force. You can find me out there on the Twitters. Well, that thing is, still operational. I question every day if today is going to be the day that the Twitters are no longer a thing. I think we'll see that day.
It's Twix.
It'll be
Yeah,
fine.
it's whatever.
It'll be fine. Every company Elon Musk has ever had has been fine and been great in the end. So I won't worry.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I appreciate your positivity, but we'll see.
Problem is, I'm an Elon fan. That's your problem.
Yeah. No, hey, I can certainly appreciate that. So yeah, no, you guys have been great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It's been good to have you on. I'll get you on more next year. It's just my laziness in inviting people on. It's half the problem. So Removable's going to remind me from now on to get
just me. I can remind
certain people on.
Well, so we'll set out, and I keep trying to push him. We'll set out post-it notes on his monitor that he can just with all the guests in. That'll be a little chart, maybe.
Definitely. Have to get you back on. But yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, and thanks, Removable Sanity, for coming back on once again.
It's absolutely my pleasure again to be on there. Obviously, thanks to our guest Goat for coming on. It's been absolutely a pleasure listening to him and seeing his enthusiasm for the genre that he loves to play so much, and also, giving us his knowledge to everybody on it. Not everyone understands it, so it's always good to have a little bit of an expert on and let us all know what it is about.
My pleasure.
Stubbs.
I'm here. Sorry, I was answering. Pixel Slapper was taking the mickey with this footage. I told him it's Trinity Fusion in the background. He was asking, is it Ori? But he's joking, obviously. but yeah,
trust me, Ori's in his video collection somewhere. Trust me,
it will be. But yes, thanks for coming on, Removable. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Oh yeah, of course. You can find me on mine's Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and Xbox under the name Removal Sanity.
Thanks for coming on once again, and thanks to myself for coming on, and
VJ for coming on. I know it was a little bit. Yeah.
Thanks to VJ for coming on. I know he stayed for a little bit, but he obviously had to go off somewhere. But yeah, thanks for coming on, everyone, and find me on X or Twitter at stubzgaming. And you can also find this podcast and the Stubscast, which is still growing, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You'll be able to find this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and so on tomorrow sometime when I publish it. And thanks everyone for the continued support. But yeah, this was the Christmas special. It was a fun one to end the year on. But yeah, thanks everyone, and we will see you next year. 2024.
It feels like it.
Yeah, it's not even that far away, really.
Couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's not that far. When you say I'll see you next year, it sounds like forever, but it's literally
2 weeks time.
Exactly, it's not far.
Yeah. And you don't know, because you might decide halfway through the week next week, I'm doing New Year's Eve special or something like that. We don't know what's going on.
You never
Trust
know.
us.
You never know. I finish work on Thursday. That's it for the year. When do you finish? You part of the Friday crew?
Is this me or Goat?
No, you Removable.
I'm Friday. My partner works throughout the holidays.
That's fair enough. I know with her job that it comes with the territory. When do you finish, Goat, then? Or don't you?
It's on and off. I'll be in and out throughout the next couple of weeks, but it's a much lighter schedule. There's a limited amount of activity going on.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
But
it's much more basting than working, isn't it?
That's correct.
Stubbs has gone quiet again.
No, I'm just looking at the date Indie Game was looking at there. Okay. So yeah, everyone, thanks for coming on, and thanks Goat again, and Removable and VJ and everyone in chat for popping in. I truly appreciate it, and we'll see you next year.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks everyone.
Have a great time, everyone.
Take care.
Enjoy.